Look, I know that, like me, you are a big fan of war and military history,
Sure.
right?
Thought you were just going to leave it at war. I was like, I don't know if I'd put it that way.
Well, yeah, war mongering,
Yeah, just a
the
huge fan of it.
technology of war crimes, war,
Hmm.
the tech that goes into war.
Sure.
Tell me, Corey.
Hmm.
Um, let's go back to the 30s and 40s. Let's go back to World War II. What would you say are the fundamental things that a good army needs
Uh,
to really do well in the fighting and killing of their enemies?
sure. You gotta have like the tanks.
You
You gotta
got to have
have,
tanks,
you gotta
yes.
have the people in the sky. You gotta have the
Yeah,
people in
air
the
cover for
water.
sure.
Hmm.
Yes. Water, naval, and air supremacy, yes.
Yeah,
The
definitely.
guns.
Yep.
You need the soldiers, you need the rations.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
You need the amphetamines.
The amphetamine.
Yes, you do.
I always
Drugs,
leave that out.
drugs are a weapon. Drugs are war.
Mm. Hmm.
And it just surprises and delights and intrigues me the just how widespread a tool of the Second World War good old-fashioned methamphetamine was.
Yeah, I mean, we broached this with Richard. You were not here when we discussed this, but
Where was I? Was I unwell?
no, this was not in the loony times.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
this I think you were on vacation or something like that.
Fine,
And
fine, fine, fine.
and our dear friend Richard Lambert came here and sat in for you that day. I believe it's episode 91, episode titled Meth Nazis.
Mm,
But this was one of the things that like blew my mind out the gate. And I think I said at the time that
yeah.
when I think about amphetamines,
Yes.
um, I think of them as, a recent scourge, as a thing
Oh,
that like,
fuck no. No, no,
this
no, no,
it's like,
no,
oh
no.
yeah, like you don't talk about people in the 40s, 50s doing meth, right? Like that's not a thing. So it's fascinating to me that nope, this absolutely
Mm.
was a thing at that point.
Yeah, and sometime before. I mean, what if I were to tell you
Hmm.
that amphetamine was first synthesized in the late 1800s, 1887, right, by
Mm.
a Romanian chemist, a guy called Lazar Idelanu. Um, but it wasn't until the 20s that it's the powerful fucking hep giving properties of amphetamine were truly harnessed. It was synthesized firstly as like an asthma medicine, a
Oh, okay.
bronchodilator,
Hmm.
which it's excellent at.
Hmm. Do we still use it for that?
Not methamphetamine, no, but
Okay.
not over the counter in the UK up until a few years back, but ephedrine and pseudoephedrine,
Okay.
which I believe is an amphetamine precursor, are commonly used in like Sudafed and fucking Otravine.
Mm.
It just
That's why they have
blasts
to put them
those
behind the
nasal
counter
passages.
now.
Exactly. And yeah, it's a precursor as well, so it can be used in the manufacture of.
Right.
Um, but the I think that's a cracking example of an idea whose time has come. If the
Mm.
stimulant effects of this drug had been discovered and kind of researched in the 20s and 30s, and then, of course, war breaks out, it feels like the right time as the world inched kind of closer and closer to war. You've got kind of armies across the globe who are noticing at the same time you've got this fucking powerful ass human potential booster. Uh, you know, doctors at the time were finding that amphetamines were useful in things like narcolepsy, depression,
Mm.
overweightness.
Hmm.
Smash you full of amphetamines, walk
Well,
it off. You know?
yeah, I mean, a lot of girls in the 90s were using that as a weight loss drug.
Yes, 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 yes. And look, as this podcast gets longer and longer in the tooth, and as I grow less and less asked about keeping any cards up my sleeve, I
Mm.
used ephedrine as a weight loss aid myself in my 20s when it was
Really?
available. You could buy it from Belgium on the internet, and just pop ephedrine, keep the
Belgium was
heart rate.
supplying it.
Belgium, yes, that's where mine would come
Interesting.
from. Keep the heart rate up and the appetite down.
Right. Yeah, of course.
Which is essentially what it did for soldiers.
Sure.
In the 30s, it was Japan. It was one of the first countries to experiment with amphetamines for use in the military. But it was, of course, the Nazis.
Yep.
Fucking more on which later, sons of bitches. But it was there that they really kind of went in on using amphetamine in a military setting, right? They developed
Mm.
um not the Nazis, but Germany itself. They developed amphetamine under a brand name called a Pervitin, meth-based drug, which very quickly took hold and became a staple in the German military, right? It was initially marketed by a pharmaceuticals producer called Temmler Merck to the public
Is that the
as
same place that is Merck now?
it. Do you know what? I, I, that feels to me like it could be.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're like, is that like, but would they have kept the same name that they had when Nazis were
Well,
using them? But
Volkswagen sure did.
yeah,
They,
sure,
you know,
Volkswagen. There's plenty of things that still retain their Nazi name. So yeah, I don't know. We'll
I'll
have
have a
to
bit of
look into
a
that.
tappy
Yeah,
tap in a second. I'll
have a
work
little
that out.
Google on that.
Yes. Um, Marketed to the public as, of course, this fucking miracle pill. It could enhance your productivity, enhance your energy. But on the battlefield, right, as early as 39, the invasion of Poland, the German front line was being issued Pervitin to really give them that extra fucking foot up on the grueling kind of schedule and the grueling demands of the Blitzkrieg. It needed rapid movement, relentless attacks, you know, often at the front lines with little to no rest for days at a time in their soldiers. And this drug, Pervitin, it allowed the Nazi front line to stay awake for extended periods, longer distances, go further, shoot more, you
Hmm.
know. Soldiers would report high kind of focus of aggression.
Mm.
Um, During the 40s, it's reported in plenty of places that millions and millions of Pervitin pills or Pervitin pills were given to the Nazi front line to sustain their advance. Meanwhile, mean fucking while, the Allies were doing the same.
Oh boy, nice.
So by the early 40s, right, you got both the British and the American militaries had noticed this and had developed in tandem benzodrine, which is essentially the
Mm.
same
Hmm.
stuff.
Yeah,
The British Air Force, the RAF, they were giving it to pilots for long kind of bombing raids. Yeah,
drugs to
pilots.
pilots. That's
Fucking right.
exactly who you want to be on fucking meth.
Yeah.
Definitely the pilots.
In primitive kind of petrol engine heavy ass fucking planes.
Right.
Um, there's a fantastic advert here from Smith, Kline, and French laboratories in Philadelphia marketing benzodrine sulfate. I'm going to quote this. I'm going to read this advert directly.
Please.
I might even fucking do a voice.
Do a voice. Do a voice.
Uh, Tiredness is of two sorts. First, there's physical tiredness, the result of overexertion. For physical tiredness, rest is the only cure. But there is also psychogenic tiredness, the result of over worry, of monotonous routine, or frustrating circumstance. The two types of tiredness are often confused. You will find that benzodrine sulfate can relieve psychogenic tiredness.
Hmm.
Benzodrine's dramatic mood effect revitalizes the patient and restores optimism, cheerfulness, and a sense of well being. Benzodrine sulfate. How
I
cool is
don't
that?
think when we talked about this with Richard, I don't think that came up, but I had compared it to like ads that were targeting women in like the
Yes.
1950s that
Yes.
were like essentially the exact same thing. That's like,
Yes.
oh, are you, super exhausted from your terrible life?
Life. Yeah,
Then
exactly.
don't worry about it. We've got benzodrine, we've got, all these kinds of things.
Lysol.
That's basically yeah, that's basically just going to make you high as shit.
Hmm.
So that you don't care that your life
Yes.
is miserable. That's the idea behind
Yes.
it. And it's wild to think of this applied to soldiers, to
Yep.
people fighting a war. Because what's like, you know, there's not really a great way to increase morale when like all your friends are dying around you. So yeah, why not meth, I guess?
Yeah, exactly this. Um, and it really feels as though it was Germany that pioneered this kind of military application of drugs. Um, it became known. It got various kind of nicknames amongst the German front line. It would be
Ugh,
called Pilot's Salt.
pilot's
Uh,
salt. I
Pilot Salt.
wonder, just sorry to interrupt here, but like, there's a lot of planes that went missing during World War II. I watch a lot of Expedition Unknown with Josh Gates,
Ooh.
and many episodes of Unknown involve looking for World War II planes. And never is it
Wow.
ever mentioned that like maybe the pilot was on meth, but like I wonder if that does play a part
I wonder.
in
They just didn't.
plane
They just
crashes.
kept on flying.
Right? Like,
Um,
I mean, it can't be great for you.
uh, more than the Air Force though, with the German armies, it seems to me as though it was focused on getting Pervitin out to tank crews.
Okay.
It got the nickname Panzer Schokolade, tank chocolate, mate. How fucking good is that?
That is
Pass
good.
me the Panzer Schokolade. I feel as though I need a nap. Um, and German high command quickly realized what they had on their hands. It was super cheap, super effective, super easy to get out to the troops, and allowed the soldiers using that tech that they had, using their tanks, using their weapons to push beyond natural, kind of realistic
Hmm.
physical and mental limits.
Yeah.
Now, moving east, as I said, Japan also made pretty extensive use of amphetamines. They issued a particular flavor of amphetamine which they called Philopon.
Philippon.
Yeah, Philopon. Which again completely zeroes you in, locks you in, keeps you working. In fact, that name Philopon translates as love and work.
Wow.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yes.
Amazing.
As we know, during the World War II, it was a Japanese tactic of kamikaze missions,
Hmm.
and it's reported that Japanese pilots would often load up on Philippon ahead of going in for the big dive.
Basically, it's, the stuff from Mad Max. They're
It
just
is, yeah, yeah, exactly.
witness
What a day!
me.
What
Hmm.
a glorious day.
Yeah, which
Um,
makes perfect sense. That's a pilot that I very much understand using drugs.
yes. Well, look, we're well into the Mad Max timeline now, aren't we?
Just in life.
No, as in when you we watched Mad Max quite recently. Didn't it say like in the year 1986 or something fucking ridiculous like
Ooh,
that?
I mean, it's possible. I feel like it's
Hmm.
supposed to be pretty contemporary in the original one, like
Yeah.
only a few years ahead of where it is.
But to your point about it being a kind of a morale boost,
Hmm.
there are letters from 1942 where a medical officer is reporting about a group of hundreds of troops surrounded by Russians and attempting to escape in freezing temperatures.
Mm.
I decided to give them Pervitin as they began to lie down in the snow, wanting to die, wrote the officer. And after half an
Jeez.
hour, the men began spontaneously reporting they felt better. They began marching in orderly fashion again. Spirits improved. They became more alert.
Well,
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, yay, I guess they didn't want to die. But again, it's like,
Yeah.
replacing the idea of like this war is really bad with
Yeah.
like it's fine, just shoot them up with stuff, like, just have them
Yeah.
snort some stuff, have them take some stuff,
Just
they'll
just
be
grind out that little bit of extra performance, those hard
yeah.
yards.
Right, because and that's the central concern, right? They're not like,
Yes.
oh, our soldiers are depressed, we feel really bad for them. It's like, oh, our soldiers
Yeah.
are depressed, they're
No,
not
no,
going to be able
no.
to fight very well.
Absolutely not. Um,
Like, send them home, that's how you fix the depression.
but one gets the impression that it was seen Benzedrine and Pervitin as this kind of miracle, as this
Hmm.
kind of fucking miracle drug. Um, General Eisenhower, he included Benzedrine in the standard issue kind of medical kit during the D-Day invasion. The soldiers were kitted out with rations, ammo, and methamphetamine. Just
Wow.
fucking crazy shit. I've
Nobody
got
ever tells you this. All the war shows and movies, and for some
yeah,
reason, they never show your soldiers popping the Benzedrine.
yes, indeed. But I mean, as you've said, not without a severe kind of pattern of drawbacks.
Right.
Uh, the crash was awful, paranoia, hallucinations, addiction, immense physical toll, long-term health problems. People would come back from the front line with a fucking monkey on their back.
Hmm.
Um, in just to quote from the letters of one American soldier, Benzedrine kept me going when nothing else could, but it also took something from me. I came back from the war, but I was never the same.
Hmm.
And that sentiment and others like it are echoed, by many who'd used that substance during the war. And it opens up the discussion about ethics.
Big time. Yes,
A little
hugely.
bit, would you
Yeah.
say? I mean, yes, there was a tactical advantage, but
Hmm. At what
did the fucking
cost?
grunts know what they were doing, what they were taking? Were they were
Right.
they
If we're
were they
talking
well
about something
informed?
that, was synthesized in the 1880s, not really used until the 1920s, certainly
Yep.
your average Joe would not have encountered
Yeah.
this because when you think about who was sent to fight in World War II,
Yeah.
you are talking about like kids basically. They wouldn't have been out there
100%.
partying and doing meth.
Yes.
So you're giving this to people who have no idea what consequences there are
Yes. Yes.
to taking something like that. So the immediate it feels good, they have no idea what they're about to face for the rest of their lives as a consequence of
Mm.
that. Nor is there the research to show what they're going to, you know,
Well,
do
yeah.
for the
I mean,
rest of their lives.
yes. So, guinea pigs, kind of exploitation,
Mhm.
it leads you down that path, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Um, and again,
Did
like I
your
said, go on.
the ephedrine you said was
Ephedrine, yes.
um did that have like effects like meth did? Like did you have the
No,
same
no,
kinds
no.
of
Absolutely no mood or
Okay.
kind of cognitive impact at all. It
It
was
was
just kind
all
of hollow
physical.
stimulation, just
Mhm.
empty pulse quickening and, sweat. But I
Gotcha.
was thin.
Oh, good. Well, there we go. I mean,
What
and
can I tell
that's what
you?
really matters.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
The
So
90s.
it was the 90s. But what if I were to tell you that Pervitin was still in use in some way, shape, or form right up until the 60s
Wow. I
in
mean,
the
I
German
guess
military? Temlewerk, the firm we mentioned earlier, was still supplying the German armies, east and west, with Pervitin pills.
in the military.
Yes.
Wow. Who were they fighting in the 60s and 70s? Or was it just like general
Just as part of the kit, as part of the
that's
the stock.
That's bonkers because, like, listen,
Mm.
I'm not like, I don't know a ton about Germany, not an area of expertise for me, but I assume they were kind of sitting in timeout, not allowed to be like fighting wars all over the place. So they're just
Mm.
giving people Benzedrine just like for shits and giggles. Probably because there's a military contract. That's what I've answered my own question. I'm
Yeah,
sure there's a
yeah, yeah, yeah,
military
yeah, yeah, yeah,
contract
yeah.
with the company that they were making a ton of money off of, and that's why they were still giving the military this shit at that
I
point.
will, as a kind of an object lesson in Pervitin's efficacy,
Mm,
I'll share a no doubt at least partially apocryphal story here
okay. Grain of
of
salt story.
the or indeed a grain of pilot salt. Hey
Hey,
yo.
but
Um this is a tale that's been reported in lots of different places, and all of the reports have things in common, right? So this
mhm,
fucking happened in one way, shape, or form.
okay,
Um, a Finnish soldier by the name of Amo Koivunen,
okay,
and we are in 1944 on March the 18th. We are in Lapland, and
okay.
Koivunen's patrol is
What's Lapland? I don't know where that is. I know it's
Lapland.
the
Well,
name of I know it's the name of a Sigur song. I don't know what Lapland is.
let me by all means turn to my map here.
Thank you. I've said multiple times geography is not my strong suit. I know places that I have been to. I travel a lot, but
Hmm.
otherwise the map is a little bit of a mystery to me, especially when you get to like parts of Northern Europe and
Yeah,
whatnot.
so Lapland, you're looking north of Finland,
Okay,
right?
sure.
Close to the coast. Um, yeah. So you got Sweden, keep going north past, Norway, Norwegian Sea, that kind of peninsula there at the top. Just off, keep going and you'll get to Greenland.
So is it part of somewhere? It's not its own like country, right? Like,
I
or
think
is
it
it?
is.
Oh, it is its own place. I genuinely have no idea.
I think it is.
Is Lapland in the Olympics? They're
No,
not playing rugby.
it's right, right. Okay, I'm going to quote here because
Okay,
I'm not going
thank
to
you.
paraphrase this. It's the largest northernmost region of Finland.
Okay, got it. Check, check,
There
check.
you go. All
Thank you
right,
very
all
much
right, all
for
right.
providing that information. And I'm sure there's someone else listening to this who is bad at geography who's like, thank you. I felt
There you
stupid.
go.
So let me take that bullet for you.
Uh,
Anyways, let's get back to our friend here.
Indeed, in again March 18th, 1944, when the ski patrol that Koivunen was a part of was ambushed by Soviet forces, and now Koivunen was the lead skier, I guess you'd say, of his platoon,
Okay.
and he was exhausted, he was desperate, he was penned in
Hmm.
by Russians, and it is widely reported that Koivunen consumed his troops' entire supply of Pervitin,
Ooh.
meant for his whole squad.
Nice. Was he trying to kill
Taking
himself?
fuck only knows at this point,
Okay.
right?
He was
We
just like, this is going to give
one
me
can only
superpowers.
speculate. One can only speculate.
Okay.
But the rush that he experienced, the energy and the boost he experienced allowed him to evade the Soviets and just ski like a motherfucker.
Nice.
Um, he woke up alone without supplies, completely separated from his unit. He survived he lived in a ditch for a week,
Nice.
survived a landmine, spent a week in a ditch eating pine buds and a single bird that he managed to catch and eat raw.
Nice. It's
I love
very
that. That's
reminiscent
a
of
kind
the
of a
guy who ate
trademark,
all the
isn't it?
yeah. It's like the guy who
If you
drank
don't
all the bat
catch
blood in the
exactly,
running
exactly,
that
exactly,
marathon.
exactly. And he was at large in the wilderness for over a week. And where he took, where he dosed himself,
Hmm.
next to where he was found, he'd covered more than 400 kilometers on skis alone.
I don't know how far that is.
It's a long old distance. What do
It
you want that in
sounds like a lot.
miles?
Give it to me in miles. Yeah.
Uh, what if I were to tell you that he'd covered 248 miles
Jesus Christ.
on
Okay, yeah,
skis?
that's a really long way.
Yes, on skis. And when he was found and taken to a hospital, he weighed 94 pounds and had a
That's
heart rate
wild.
of 200 beats per minute.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Still, like a week later.
Yes. Yes, indeed. But I mean, knowing
Wow.
something about kind of, you know, how alkaloids are processed,
Hmm.
I find it hard to believe that a week later he would still be buzzing, just no matter how huge the dose was.
I would
Um,
just die of anxiety if my heart was going. You know how weird I am about my heart rate. If
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah,
was
yeah, yeah,
200 beats per minute for a
yeah.
week, I would just stress myself out till I died.
But here's the thing. Yes, there are doubtless apocryphal elements of that story, but he lived until 1989.
Okay.
So he was able to tell about this, you know what I mean? This
Right,
this
yeah.
this isn't just hearsay. I mean, this is stuff that he would have uh uh fed into the legend of. He died at the age of 71, which not bad, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for the time, not the worst. And
Yes,
for someone who took a lot of amphetamines,
took a lot of amphetamine.
taxed his heart real hard.
I just thought it might be interesting to just chat a little bit,
Hmm.
about the drugs in the army in the war. Yeah. Learn a
Honestly,
little something, find out where Finland is.
yeah, I wonder, and I'm sure that they're probably, I don't spend a lot of time on the like current military or things like that.
No, nor do I. Nor
And
do
so
I.
I do wonder, I'm sure there are books and stuff like that about like what people are using now. Um, I'm sure there are drug
Hmm.
tests and things like that, and that, ostensibly they are not technically feeding people drugs to keep them good, but I do wonder,
Well,
what
there
a soldier's
is,
on these days.
interestingly, very interestingly to me, right? There is a, I mean, it's regarded as kind of a laughing stock in the sporting community, but there is a guy
Okay.
who's doing his best to launch the enhanced Olympics, or like the
Oh,
enhanced
yeah, yeah, yeah,
kind of
yeah.
sporting competition.
Yeah, just let the
Um,
people do whatever it is they want to do
yeah,
and see
yeah,
who's best
exactly,
at it.
exactly. Allow
Yeah.
me to quote from enhanced.org, the website
Ooh.
of this. I'm in case, it might not shock you to learn that I'm 100%, 110% behind this.
Yeah,
When
surprising.
44% of athletes already use performance enhancement, it's time to safely celebrate science.
Yeah,
Fucking right.
it's an interesting thought. I think, if people are gonna do it,
Yeah.
then yeah, give them a separate thing because obviously my central thing is that it pushes people who don't want to put shit into their bodies into having to use it to be able to compete in sports. So,
Yeah.
that's why you get someone like Lance Armstrong doing that shit. It's like he
Yeah.
didn't, not that I'm letting him off the hook for any of this shit, but like he did it because like you can't do that sport without doing it. And that should not be how sports work. That
No, certainly not.
you cannot play this if you're not on drugs. So if people are going to keep doing it, yeah, give them Olympics for that. Give them leagues for that. I
Yeah.
think, it's also
I have to
very
agree.
dangerous, but if you're
No
if
kind
you're
of,
willing,
no reasonable adult could disagree with that.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty who do, but
No,
I
then they are
think
not reasonable adults, Corrigan.
reasonable. Well, I think, you can't argue that like creating something like this also pushes people into doing dangerous things to their bodies. Like it's just like with like
No,
football, right? I
not the
think
enhanced games.
well, yeah, it is. I mean, that's the thing is like even with like the NFL, right? Like there's plenty of reason to argue that should not exist and is an unethical sport in and of itself, right?
Mm.
Because even though people are growing up and consenting to do this and whatnot, the things that they're doing to their brains as a result of playing this and the what happens to them and what they do to other people as a
Yeah,
result of the head injuries that they take and stuff like that,
yeah.
you can argue that that's wholly unethical on its face. And I think you could say the same thing about the idea of a performance enhancing drug competition, is the idea that like
Well,
what it does to you can
you
be
you
considered
listen to the
unethical
guy
on its
sounds
face.
the president of the enhanced games is Dr. Aaron Ping de Souza, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he sounds like a kind of a cross between Herman Goering and Vince McMahon, the kind of shit he's writing. Right?
It's always a great combo.
At the enhanced games, we encourage the use of performance enhancements under the appropriate medical safeguards. This is our opportunity to evolve humanity by
Yeah,
demonstrating
I
what the human
hate
body is
this.
truly capable of. I'm super into this.
Like this
The
is
enhanced games,
that's
the
such
enhanced
villain
games will
shit.
permit the use of performance enhancements that result in competitions that are fairer, safer, and more thrilling to watch. Do you see
I
what I'm
mean,
saying? He's
you're really getting towards like Running Man type shit when it comes to things
yes,
like this. That's the thing,
yes,
is like for
yes.
our entertainment, yeah, sure, like roid them up, but there's like so many health issues even doing it safely.
I
Um,
just I'm looking at one page and he says the word safety a lot.
because that's the thing everyone's going to have concerns about because there isn't really a way to
Is there a
roid
chance the
people up
track
that
could bend?
hard and do it safely,
Not a
that's
chance,
really
my
the
meth
issue.
head friend. Yeah.
So it's not that I'm necessarily against it outright. Like I think, if people are already doing it. So yeah, like do it
Mm.
somewhere where you don't then force people who don't want the horrendous effects on their body
Yep.
to have to do it too.
All right. Well, that's all I got for you.
Good chat. I've got great news, Mark.
Wonder. Oh, please.
Fantastic
Yes,
news for
please.
you this week.
Yes, please.
Last week we were ripping apart that documentary about near death experiences that we watched a few
Oh,
years back, and we were
piece of
calling
shit
it
on Netflix. So
nonsense.
I even remember what it was called, Surviving Death. Oh,
Surviving death.
give me a
That was the
break.
one. Nice. I could not remember. But listen,
Mm.
Mark, I come here chastened.
Mm.
I come here corrected.
What?
All thanks to my MSN homepage, which
Oh yeah.
served
Okay.
me up an article from Insider entitled, this is the title: I've studied more than 5,000 near-death experiences. My research has convinced me without a doubt that there's life after death.
Oh, fuck. And who is this? Who's this guy?
Well, this is Dr. Jeffrey Long, an oncologist from Kentucky, who says he has seen his patients see the other side. Do you want to hear
See,
what he has to say about it?
well, yeah, obviously. I mean, this seems like it might be difficult to argue
It's
against.
gonna be real hard to refute, but we're gonna have to sit
Yeah.
here with our,
Shit.
with our worldview glasses off and just try to take it.
Shit.
So the article starts. Mark, I'm gonna read you some bits of it. We'll hash it out. 37 years ago, I was an oncologist resident learning about how best to treat cancer using radiation. These were the pre-internet days, so I did my research in the library. One day, I was flipping through a large volume of the Journal of the American Medical Association when I am going to sneeze. Oh, come on, man. I
Look at a light. Look at a light.
don't think that
Gaze at a light bulb.
my light has a.
Yeah.
God damn
Ooh. Oh,
it.
shit. I thought that was it.
Me too. Oh, this is sad. Okay. Let's see. Let me see if I can read that sentence again. One day, God damn it. I was flipping through a large volume of the Journal of the American Medical Association when I came across an article describing near death experiences. It stopped me in my tracks. All my medical training told me you were either
I'm just
alive
imagining that.
or dead.
Just flipping through pages. What?
Just a little, like, that meme of the woman with all the little
Exactly, exactly.
numbers.
What's this near-death experience? Ugh.
What? All my medical training told me you were either alive or dead. There was no in between. But suddenly, I was reading from a cardiologist describing patients who had died, then come back to life, reporting very distinct, almost unbelievable experiences.
Mm.
From that moment, he says he became fascinated with near death experiences, or NDEs, which I'm sure did not color his perspective for the rest of his life in any way, nor did finishing his residency and immediately starting the Near Death Experience Research Foundation, where he, as he put it, collected stories from people who had NDEs and then, quote, evaluated them with the mind of a scientist and a doctor.
Oh, yeah.
No ulterior motives, Mark. Just a regular science guy, you
A
know?
science and doctor. I'm a scientist and a doctor.
Scientist and a doctor. Yep.
Yep.
He said, I make opinions based on evidence and came into this as a skeptic, which, he told us he'd read a book about this and devoted his life to it. So I feel like skeptic is kind of the wrong
Yeah.
word for how
A
he entered
skeptic
this.
looking for funding.
Right. I just love, like, you see this when you're watching like shows about the supernatural, Bigfoot, cryptids, all these kinds of things. It's that, like, in order to make themselves not sound like they're making it up, people always say that, like, I was a skeptic before. I would never have believed this until it
Nice.
happened to me. And it's like
Yeah.
bullshit. You were not a skeptic. You did not come into
Mm.
the, like, I'm honest about this, that that in my head I'm very much a skeptic. I don't believe in any of this stuff anymore. However, if you put me in a haunted house, my brain's going to go crazy and I'm going to think there's ghosts in there. You know? Like,
Yeah,
you have to be honest about what you mean by being a skeptic.
for a rational lady of science and culture as you are,
Mm-hmm.
it is a source of continual amusement and delight to me that you love a ghost tour and
Yeah.
that
Oh,
you know what I
man.
mean.
Yep.
You'll drink that shit right in.
Yep, that bit of suspension of disbelief for an hour or two. Absolutely
Yeah,
love
yeah,
it,
yeah.
And so I will, yeah, the idea, even as a person who is genuinely a skeptic, if you put me in the right circumstance, I'm not going to call myself that. So the
Mm.
idea that,
Skeptic.
you,
Let me
yeah,
just try and get a grab on that word, right?
do it. Yeah.
To me, a skeptic is someone who doubts.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Whose inclination is to disbelieve. That's what I would think.
So, what is the next level of skeptic? Because I am not a skeptic about the afterlife. there's no gray area in
Right. Well,
my certainty.
I guess see that's an interesting thought because the way that I always approach things is that you can never be 100% sure about anything. I think I am, but the idea that I would shut myself off to the idea that there is like there could be a scientific thing, that does not make sense to me. If there were
Mm,
somehow that someone came and, found the portal to hell or whatever, or figured out, whatever connection and they scientifically mapped it out and they were like, this is how matter transfers into this, blah, 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 blah,
yep,
blah, then
yep,
I
yep, yep.
wouldn't go, nah. you
Mm.
know? And that to me, that is what says skepticism, because beyond that, then you just have a belief, right? Like that's just a belief. You believe a certain thing
But that
in
doesn't
spite
quite
of
do it
the
for me either. I mean,
potential for evidence.
because a belief is a position, isn't it? A
Hmm.
belief is,
Which is what that is, right? Like, because you can't know. You don't know this. You can think you know it with your whole soul, but you don't know this. There's like you always say, right? There's only one way
yeah.
to
And
know.
listen, you've pulled the words right out of my brain. That's exactly what I was just thinking. That's why, it's the decapitation conundrum again, isn't it?
Right, exactly. There's only one way you can possibly know these kinds of things. And
But
so,
yet, I'm not comfortable in describing myself as a skeptic because that leaves far too much leeway.
sure. Yeah, and I see what you mean there. I think, you know, and I think that is something that often when I like read things from people who say they're skeptics is one of the
Yeah.
reasons why you question it, right? Because it leaves room. And then you're like, so does
Yes.
that mean you do believe this, but you just
Exactly.
need the right thing? I think for a lot of people, though, who call themselves skeptics, it means like you would have to like show me absolute scientific
Yeah.
proof. Otherwise,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
I
So I
guess
get
that's
what you
where, yeah, I
mean.
guess that's where I am. Yes. I would
Yeah,
need fucking triple peer reviewed
right.
shit on
Yeah.
my desk.
And I think that's the thing. It's a so like yeah, the word skeptic is fraught because there's a
Mm.
range of who calls themselves
I don't have a
skeptics. There's
desk.
uh there's there's this guy who, very clearly decided early on that he believes in this but calls
Yeah.
himself a skeptic because he tried to approach it with the scientific method. And then there's the people who are like, no, until you show me absolute proof, there's no such thing as this, who
Mm.
calls themselves skeptics, using the same term and it meaning opposite things. So
I'm
yeah.
I I'm not I don't have a head full of bees. I don't, but I'm rabbit holing all over the
No,
place.
go
I
for it.
was absolutely infuriated to read earlier this week.
I
The
don't
word
have a head full of
unlockable,
bees.
right?
Uh-huh.
The word unlockable
Unlockable. Unlockable.
simultaneously means something that can't be locked or something that is
Oh,
able
sure.
to be unlocked.
Oh, sure.
Isn't that irritating? That
That
irritates the
is
shit out of me.
irritating. Yeah. Yep.
Fucking hate that, man.
Where did you see that?
TikTok.
Oh, for fuck's sake. uh, I, but it's also like a word no one would ever use. So I guess it's not like it's not as annoying as like bi-weekly,
Mm.
you know?
Yes, 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 yes. That yeah, that's I had forgotten about that. I'd forgotten about how annoyed I was at that.
I'm okay with unlockable because I've never said unlockable my entire life, but bi-weekly
Okay.
will always be the bane of my existence.
I'm gonna stop dragging you off course now. Go for it.
Sure.
Skepticism.
Skepticism. This guy claims to be a skeptic, even though he saw this in a medical book and immediately started an entire organization around near-death experiences. He claims, quote, about 45% of people who have had an NDE report an out-of-body experience. When this happens, their consciousness separates from their physical body, usually hovering above the body.
Yeah,
The
yeah, we've
person
all
can
heard it.
see and the person can see and hear what's happening around them, which usually includes frantic attempts to revive them.
Yeah.
One woman even reported a doctor throwing a tool on the floor when he picked up the wrong one, something the doctor later confirmed.
Well, close the
I mean,
fucking case.
how else could
Yeah.
she have known? Certainly not the doctor mumbling like, shit, I dropped my scalpel.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, right. Like I know how I would how I react when I drop something. But no, she
Fact.
had to have been yeah, fact. Had to have been hovering over her body watching this happen in order
Mm.
to know that. Um, an interesting thing that makes me think of too is I can't remember what it was that I was hearing someone talk about, but it was like some sort of medicine that they give you as like an anesthetic or, to put you under things like that. And one of the things that they said about this, I'm sure you've either experienced it having medical work done or heard about this, but is the idea that like as you go under, you're going to feel a floating sensation, like you're floating outside of your body. That's just like the normal effect
Mm.
of this medicine on you. And so the idea of people thinking that they
Yeah, it
have
feels like you're
floated
talking about
outside of their
ketamine. I
body.
mean,
Oh, sure, yeah.
widely used as a anesthetic.
Mm,
Is about as close as you can get to a safe, quick acting, quick attack and decay rate of this drug is very quick onset
hmm.
and you know is perfectly fine for use in a medical setting.
Yep.
Um, I don't I don't I can buy that it might that you might get a floaty sensation on the way down. Yes.
Hmm. Yeah. And so the idea of like, someone being put under or something of that nature before something happening that they're
Yeah.
using to revive them or whatever, that
And I've
seems
read in plenty
reasonable.
of places that there's a theory that it's your brain releasing DMT.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
Or
In
but
the face
like
of imminent shutdown and death.
yeah, and we were talking even before the show started about how we know that like we're about to fall asleep because our brains start misfiring
Yeah.
and coming up with just nonsense.
Yeah.
And so I know that like, as I fall asleep, I think I'm in situations that I'm not and all kinds of stuff. And
Yeah.
that's a perfectly normal
Yeah.
reaction as well. So I just find this entire thing a very funny way to like say like, no, this is definitely because people are actually floating outside of their bodies, not because this is your brain shooting off all kinds of random stuff as it fights for its life.
That pre-sleep state is so fascinating to me. Good
I know,
God.
right? Yeah.
It is so interesting to me because I mean I've told you before about how I use it as an indicator that I'm going to
Hmm.
have a decent night and that I am actually going to go to sleep if I'm just patient enough.
Hmm.
Uh, it's when I recognize that I've had a thought which I didn't try to have
Right.
that that almost it's almost as though somebody has planted an external idea in my head. I have no idea where it came from, but and then I'll out of nowhere be able to recognize, oh, hang on, I didn't try and have that thought, and an abstract kind of situation or face or voice has arisen in my mind. Oh, right, that means I'm tuned in, I'm on the right wavelength, I'm going to go to sleep. It's cool.
Do
But
you actively try to have your thoughts? This is actually like an interesting little aside you've brought into this here because I don't think you've ever described it that way before. Uh, and that's fascinating to me because I have a super ADHD brain and my brain is nothing but thoughts that I don't mean to have.
well, a part of a part of what I think is at the root cause of my ongoing issues with sleep is the anxiety cycle, this don't think of
Sure.
a fucking elephant kind of problem.
Right, right, right,
You
right. Yeah,
can't try and
totally.
relax. And as soon as I realize that I'm trying to relax, fucking fuck
Mm,
off, forget it.
hmm.
Um, so I nightly kind of have this balance between almost not trying not to look at
Okay.
trying not to regard myself, trying not
Yeah,
to
okay. I
regard my
see what
own
you mean now.
processes almost. Fucking hell.
Hmm.
Trying not to try.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
where I'm trying. That's what
definitely.
I'm kind of getting at. I'm trying.
Okay.
I'm trying to do things naturally, and when I realize that something has happened that I didn't try and make happen, then I kind of I can relax then because I realize I've got it nailed.
Okay. This makes so much more sense because I'm like, you like last week's cold open that
Yeah,
everybody
yeah.
has commented on. It's like it doesn't feel like your thoughts are totally deliberate,
Organized. Mm.
organized. But no, I definitely get what you mean there of the like, when you are actively trying to, yeah, don't think about thinking, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden something comes out of nowhere and you're like, oh yeah, that's
Oh,
that's an
yeah,
indicator
exactly.
that I
And
am no
and and
longer
right
running
there.
this ship.
Yeah, yeah. Man, that is interesting as hell to me, that is.
Yeah, it very much is. And just like you were saying, I think it's a really nice feeling to me where it's usually like a moment of confusion and then going, oh, sweet, I'm falling asleep. I'm
See,
actually
because
falling asleep right now.
the experience of using sleep medication
Hmm.
is totally different.
Hmm.
That's more akin to switching off a light
Right.
when there's no kind of gradation between awake and asleep. There
Hmm.
isn't a kind of a drift,
Right.
where your thoughts get subsumed by whimsy. There's none of that. When you're using sleep meds, it's 1 minute you're awake and then the next minute you're awake, but it's the next day,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
which
This
is
is what happens
in
to me if I take a Benadryl.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Mm.
It's exactly this, which
Yeah.
is which is functionally sleep, but it isn't.
Right, but it doesn't feel like the same thing.
Nah,
Yeah.
it's like dinner in pill form, isn't it?
Exactly.
Like space dinner from all
Right.
mankind.
Space dinner. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
precisely what sleep meds are. Okay,
yeah.
interesting. So, out of body experiences here, much like perhaps if you don't take your space pill. Um, and he says the after the out of body experience, people say they're transported into another realm. Many pass through a tunnel and experience a bright light. Then they're greeted by deceased loved ones, including pets, who are in the prime of their lives. Most people report an overwhelming sense of love and peace. They feel like this other realm is their real home. And he says that while he knows these things sound like tropes, he believes that they're tropes because they're true.
Oh, that old chestnut. Okay, okay, okay.
Right.
Every
Everybody
legend has
reports
a
this
grain of truth,
happening.
doesn't it? Eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
because it's actually happening.
To be
Uh,
honest, it's you've touched upon there one of the reasons why I consider myself like a mega skeptic. If
mhm.
there's just because, with the amount of people who've died by now, constants would start to emerge. I don't give a fuck. I want to know, are your pets included? Are insects included? Um, if so, is it, I want to know, I want to be able to write it down. I want to be able to fucking know the exact
Well, and
science
according
behind
to
this.
this guy, all of those things are reported regularly from people.
Hmm.
So if you're looking for constants, like a consistency in people's reports, then absolutely that exists. The issue being that we don't know why that happens, right? Like if it's the fact that we've been watching media for a century that presents near death experiences with that, and so we sort of associate it. It's like, the chupacabra, right? We talked
Yeah, yeah,
about
yeah,
that,
yeah.
like, a
Tell
woman
you
had
what,
a
it's been
nightmare after watching Species, and then all of a sudden other people reported seeing the exact same thing she'd seen.
yeah. I'm never more than two or three thoughts away from thinking about Hereditary, right? And I haven't spoken about Hereditary for a while, so I'm just gonna
It's
just
been like 2 weeks
I know. But
at most.
having this discussion has really brought into relief one of the reasons why I've gone so fucking gaga over that film.
Hmm.
Because the job it does of showing a skeptic seeing what they believe to be incontrovertible evidence of something beyond the veil and dealing with it is
Mm.
fucking just so good. Ugh, it's the best.
All right, you've gotten your hereditary in for the episode. That's
Okay,
it.
thank you. Watch Hereditary.
um, but yeah, it's like we don't know if it's just kind of like people reporting the same thing that they've heard over and over again, so it kind of sticks in their minds. We don't know if it is something that like the brain does. the
Mm.
the synapses fire in such a weird way that like you see light or you picture these various things. And uh he sort of goes on to talk about like again, I love that he keeps saying things like seemingly unbelievable because like they are unbelievable.
Because you've got to
But
maintain that
yeah, this
facade,
is
haven't you?
like I know it sounds crazy, but he
Mm.
says other people seemingly report seemingly unbelievable events. You're gonna like this one, which we can later confirm. One woman lost consciousness while riding her horse on a trail. Her body stayed on the trail while her consciousness traveled with her horse as he galloped back to the barn. Later, she was able to describe exactly what happened at the barn because she had seen it, despite her body not being there. Others
Just her
who hadn't
consciousness was
spoken
on the
to her
horseback.
confirmed her account.
Wow, so she fell off the
She fell
horse,
off the horse.
but her
The horse
consciousness
went with the horse.
just now just stayed on that fucking
I
horse.
feel like if I could like astral project some sort
Yeah.
of tulpa me, I would have skipped the horse. I
You
would have
wouldn't need
just
a fucking
gone to
horse, would
like the
you?
hospital or like something, you know?
Yeah.
Like why
Yeah.
would you? Oh
Yeah.
shit, I fell off my horse. I better get back on and ride it.
Yeah. Da, 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 ba, bow, ding, 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 ding. Awesome.
Just
Ghost cowboy.
doesn't seem expedient to
And
me.
also I enjoy how did he refer to her as one woman? No name needed. No
Yes, one
no further
woman.
details. No,
Mhm.
just
Just one
source, trust me,
woman.
bro.
Yeah,
No other
exactly.
details needed.
Maybe in, maybe this is detailed in his many
Mm.
files or whatever in his institute for this stuff. I don't know, but
I'd
I
like to
also
see the
always
Institute
love
of NDEs.
it
I
would
bet
be
it's like
amazing.
in my head, it's like that call center from telemarketers.
Right, totally.
A bunch of
Uh,
stoners and fucking alcoholics.
but I also love that like one of the things that is again like how he keeps confirming this is, someone who hadn't spoken to her confirmed her account, or the doctor who had dropped his tool confirmed that had
Yeah, yeah,
happened. It's like, oh, somebody else saying this happened
yeah,
definitely means it did, which like we know what memory is like and how easy it is to like implant an idea in someone's head and make them think that happened.
yep,
Like we're pretty agreeable that way. If you tell us something happened, then we will
yep.
replace that with our memory of what went on. This is another great one. He also believes in a thing he calls fear death experiences,
Or
which is that
FDEs.
FDEs,
Holy
which
shit.
is where you fear that you're about to die. Like when you nearly get into a car accident or if you have a sudden fall, things that cause you to react with the certainty, oh my God, I'm going to die.
SYEs.
What's
That's
what's S1?
it's a shit yourself experience, isn't it?
Yeah, okay.
Clearly, that's what
A
he's
fear death or
discovered
shit
there.
yourself experience. He
Yeah.
says that these people often report seeing their lives flash before their eyes, including events they couldn't possibly remember from toddlerhood, but are later confirmed by family members. Which, like, listen, my mother loves to tell the same stories over and over again about my childhood. I can imagine there's a
Mm.
lot of things locked up in there that I could say I remember. In fact, I don't know if you have any of these things, but I always think I remember when I was like, to me, I assume that I was like 4 or whatever. I was not. I was like a baby. I always think
Mhm.
I remember my brother giving me this puppet show with a Fozzie Bear puppet,
Oh
like
wow.
hand puppet.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think I remember this because there is a photo in a photo album of my brother doing this puppet show. And I think just somewhere in there it implanted and
Yeah.
became my own memory.
Yeah. I have very, very similar kind of context. I'm certain I remember um textures and kind of the sensation of a leather sofa that was in the
Mm,
very first house that I lived in with my family, even though I'm way too young to remember
right.
that. And yet
Yeah, totally.
there are photos. I know photos of me sat on it.
Yeah, so it's like it just kind of
Yeah,
gets
yeah, yeah,
mixed in with
yeah.
your memories over time, which I imagine probably has something to do with people thinking they see this. It's also fascinating considering last week we talked about like drowning and how like we have deep details of what people think about when they're in the process of drowning. And I have on a couple of occasions had very like fear death experiences, moments where I was like, ah shit, I'm definitely going to die. And a lot of times what we get reported from people who experience these kinds of things is almost like silly stuff. There are people who think about like, oh, like look over their life and reflect or whatever, but like a lot of times people think of like really trivial things when they're about to die, or
Yeah.
fixate on one element of their life. Like a lot of people, obviously, it's like, oh, my kids, I'm really sad for my kids or things like that. But other people will think about some dumb thing they've never done or a mistake they made or things like that. So this idea that like, oh, when you fear you're going to die or whatever,
Everyone has a
you
uniform response. Everyone does the
right.
same thing in the same order.
Yeah, we all get this thing that happens because I think to your point earlier where you were like, I want a consistency or whatever, I think that is more the thing. Like if there is an afterlife and we know, like, for example, people drown to death,
Yeah.
um, then they should all come back with that same
Yes, exactly.
report.
Exactly.
But they don't. They report thinking about, whether their stove was turned off or things like that. So if people can die physically and be revived and not have those experiences, I think that speaks to what you're saying about, why doesn't everybody experience this then? Do only some people get an afterlife? Like what does that mean?
See, to me, if I would, hey, I'm a skeptic, but to me, that opens up an even more kind of terrifying possibility
Okay.
that the afterlife itself exists and yet is subjective.
Mm-hmm.
So the void exists.
Right.
There is an else, but no two people experience it in the same way.
Mm.
We
Yeah.
are so poorly equipped to fucking handle the enormity of that next step. Our
Right.
physical brains all
Yeah,
fucking
do
wig
weird
out
shit. Yeah,
exactly and
yeah.
experience it differently.
Yeah, I feel
Ooh,
like
there's a
that
concept.
that is a great concept. And it kind of speaks to like what John Keel, the author of the Mothman Prophecies, he talked about. I'm trying to think of what it's called. I keep thinking superstructure, but that's not what super spectrum. I think
Right.
is what he calls it. And essentially it's kind of this idea that there is sort of a beyond the veil, right? Like there are other um layers of like matter and existence that are all happening at the same time as what we're in. But we simply lack the,
Yeah.
the
The
facility to be
equipment.
able
Yes.
to deal with it. And that there are some people who are able to, and that's a person who might experience cryptid activity or ghosts or things like that, but that most of us simply can't engage with that other
Yeah.
layer of existence that's coexisting with us. And yeah, I think that is kind of a terrifying concept. Like, what if there is an afterlife for all of us, but it's subjective? It makes me
You
think
can't
of,
handle it.
yeah, right? Like
Or
thinking
you can't
about,
handle it in a way that translates to the physical realm, to the mortal realm.
yeah,
You can't, it's like Cthulhu. You can't talk about it because it's too fucking
right.
big.
Or what if it's like, you just like thinking about people who think about like leaving, they left the stove on or something like that as they're dying. Like what if it's existential anxiety for all eternity because your mind can't comprehend
Oh,
what you're
God.
experiencing and you just spend all of eternity in a state of stress as a result. Like me when I have a gummy. Like this is supposed to be fun. Some people are having fun here and I'm stressed out and I think my gums are numb. What if that's the afterlife for me?
God. But isn't it cool that there's only one way to know? And we're all
Only
gonna
one way
find
to
out.
know.
We're
We
all gonna
will.
find out.
But well, or we won't, right? Because if there is
Yeah.
no afterlife, we will never find out.
No, but even that is a kind of knowing.
Is it? How's
Yes.
that?
Surely there's a fucking a, a fulcrum, a tipping point when the physical fucking, the electric impulses across your muscles have gone, and there's just that little bit of electrochemical zap left in your brain.
What if I go and I like straight like shoot you in the face? Straight through your brain.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Yeah, given ideal circumstances, we'll all find out,
Okay. I don't know.
unless you
I
get
don't know
shot in
if
the
I
head.
think that. I don't think we ever get to know. I think it just, you know, is or it isn't. We only get to
All
know
right,
if there is.
from a philosophical perspective, we all
Mm,
find out, and not finding out is in itself.
okay.
Give me that. Let me have this.
I will let you have that. No, that's a very valid way to put it. You know, I struggle with the philosophy.
Mm,
I have a very literal brain. And so, you know, that's why I don't
yeah.
think that way. But I get you. I get what you mean.
From where I'm sat right now, the even if you find out there's nothing to find, you've
Hmm.
still found out.
Sure.
But doesn't finding out itself imply something left there to find out that there's nothing to
Well,
find
see,
out?
yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from on this is that there's
Yeah,
got to be that would be afterlife
yeah.
if there was something there to
Jack of
be
all
aware.
graves.
Welcome, friends. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh,
Where we just talk about like light shit that, you know, has no impact on anyone or
it
anything.
it bears repeating because I'm very much in that zone. But the idea that you can't know until you know is so great. I love it so much.
I don't know that I have like the same piece about it that you do, but like that makes sense because obviously, as we've talked about on this podcast from episode 2, the reason that I went through my Christian phase was because of not knowing and that
Yeah,
being too stressful a thing for my brain to deal with, and so I had to subscribe to something that told me there was a way to know. I am not in that phase anymore. But I will say that much like your unsolved mysteries versus my needing to, you know, what's our word again for what Scotch things.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, I still do prefer knowing.
Good. Because
It's our
if you
balance.
didn't, that would indicate that would be a cause for concern.
Would it?
Yeah, to me. If as I said, I have grown to know you
Mm,
as a lady of science and culture.
sure.
And I don't the version of you that I have in my head would entertain none of that nonsense.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, don't go flaking
But
on me.
no, I don't think we have any signs that that's going to be
Any
changing
worries?
anytime
Okay,
soon.
good, good, good.
But hello, Mark. How you doing?
I'm all right, thank you.
Good.
Well, yeah, yeah, I'm good. Interesting place to be, the UK this
It's
week.
fucking right. What's going on over there, man?
Very interesting place to be. Seems to be quite small pockets, but the far right are up to their fucking somebody left the door unlocked and the far right are out and about in
Hmm.
towns.
Yeah.
It seems to be largely in the north, Sunderland and Huddersfield, that kind of place. There was there was an horrific, uh, inexplicable act of murder
Hmm.
last week. A 17-year-old kid, man, a 17-year-old
So
kid
crazy. Yeah.
on in Merseyside walks into a fucking dance class and just starts knifing kids.
Yeah.
Um, and the far right urged on with the most predictable fucking dog whistling, man.
Hmm.
From your friend and mine, light aircraft crash survivor Nigel Farage,
Right.
uses uses that classic fucking phrase, right? I wonder if the truth is being hidden from us.
Fuck that guy.
That's almost exactly what he said. I
And
I
that's all it
wonder,
takes,
I
right? Like
wonder
that's
if the
it.
truth is being hidden from us.
Hmm.
And obviously that's not the only factor, but now you've got fucking I'm going to use cunt here, which is the C word, isn't it?
I mean, it is, yes.
Draped in their fucking George Cross flags. One fucking gimp was on the news earlier on in a full kind of Arthurian knight costume.
Stop.
I'm
Ugh.
I'm not I'm
These
I'm
people
serious.
are just like
I'm
such
just
nerds. I hate them
parodies of
so
themselves,
much. Yeah.
parodies of themselves.
I mean, I've talked
Um,
about this before. Like, I like far right people and like the fact they didn't don't realize that they're just dumbass cosplayers. Like,
yeah,
it's
completely, completely.
enraging that it's like you are such geeks and you think
Yeah.
that you are warriors.
But yeah, warriors who seize control of their country and take back their freedoms by looting fucking shoe shops,
Right.
breaking into a cinema, setting fire to a fucking a library, for fuck's sake.
All under the idea that it wasn't actually this 17-year-old British kid, but some
Yeah.
Arab
Um.
who did this.
Well, obviously, good old social media. It was circulated that the kid was a migrant, came over on a boat. Not true.
Right.
It was circulated that the kid was Muslim. Not true.
Right.
The kid was born in Cardiff, for fuck's sake. Cardiff.
Yep. I did see
Uh,
something about that. Yeah, where they were
yeah,
talking about the like a well-off family, right? Because I think that I was watching an interview and they were saying like, yeah, the area we lived in had money
yeah,
and, you know, when they
yeah,
moved from Wales, they moved to another place that was,
yeah.
you know, pretty well off as well.
Um,
The kind
Rwandan
of place
family,
that has a
Christian
Taylor
family.
Swift dance class for
Well, yeah,
kids, you know?
exactly, exactly, exactly. So, only he will fucking he only he would be able to shed light on what the
Right. Yeah,
fuck
what
drove that.
happened? Yeah.
17, CoRri,
17 killed
you know?
3 little
Yeah.
girls.
But that
Insanity.
is
And yeah, the right decided
that is
to
given
go and then burn
the
down England as a
the
result.
pasty the white wing. It's given them license in their heads to go out and cause their little bits of mayhem. It's currently kicking off in Tamworth. Uh, seems to be all in the north. I don't know. I
Mhm.
don't know. But it's horrible to watch, and it's man, it would be funny if people weren't actually being hurt.
Right, exactly. You know, that's the thing is like usually these guys get together and they just do dumbass shit with
Yeah, and there
themselves
is
and
comedy. I mean, uh, in the group chat, that clip of the fucking knobhead getting brained by a brick,
right,
and then
yeah.
literally 2 seconds later getting a second brick to the
hmm
balls. Fucking
Yep.
brilliant. So good. But on the other hand, like I said, they set fire to a fucking library, looting shops,
Right.
and you know, and not just public property. I mean, there's been videos of a black geezer walking on his own, getting just jumped, getting fucking beaten
Just
by
horrifying.
a group of these fucking bellends.
Yeah, that they're
Um,
attacking people who are already vulnerable, you know,
yeah.
and the victims of a lot of hate and things like that as it is, and just sort of going after them under. I mean, it's like the you remember Liam Neeson and the like I went out looking for a black guy to attack after my friend was raped kind of
Yes, yes.
situation, you know, and it's like they all that's what they're doing, except that there was no black
No, there
attacker
was,
in the
yeah,
first place.
yeah,
They
yeah,
invented
yeah.
that in their minds
You
and
know,
now they're
they're
just like anyone's a target who
setting
is
fires in the
I don't
lobbies of
like.
hotels, which they suspect might be used to house migrants.
Uh, it feels like the same. It's like a two sides of this, not even two sides of the same coin. It's just the same coin with the thing with
Yeah.
that boxer this week who, you know, the right decided is actually a man because
Oh, yeah,
she
yeah,
hit a
yeah,
white
sure.
person too hard. And it's
Yep.
like the thing that happens with this stuff is, you know, people start spreading misinformation on TikTok and you see it like anytime someone tries to correct anything about this boxer, all of the comments are like, no, she has XY chromosomes and she's
Yeah.
elevated testosterone and all this kind of stuff, none of which is true. There is
Well, yeah. I
no
mean,
nothing to say this. We have no evidence that any of that is true, but you
it
end
was
up
pretty
drumming
quickly
up.
scotched that this 17-year-old was a British kid of Christian parents.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
What did they go? Oh, sorry, lads.
Yeah,
All the
my
best.
bad.
My bad.
No, no,
No,
they double down and they
tripled.
begin attacking people who are marginalized already
Yeah.
and, you know, spreading all of this stupid dumbass hate that becomes like that we know the truth is completely lost. You know, like there's nobody cares what the truth was. They're mad now.
Yeah.
And, you know, you go and burn something or whatever the case may be as a result of it, you know. It's so
The t-shirts tied around their
frustrating to
fucking
see.
faces.
Yeah, right. It's just
Mm.
cowards, absolute cowards.
Yeah, it's
Hate
minging.
these people. Yep. Don't like it. Don't if you see these people, please brick them right in the junk.
Yes.
That is the official
Do
Joag
that.
party
Do
line
that.
on this is you
Brick
see
them
these
in the
people on your
junk.
street, brick them in the junk.
Yes. If you can get your hands on some Uh,
Use what's available to you, you know?
well, I was thinking Nazi methamphetamine. Just load
Oh,
yourself up
sure. Yeah, load yourself up and go to town.
with Pervitin and go ham.
Absolutely. With whatever tools you have necessary, get to it and we support you. We will start that bail fund for any
Hey,
JOAG person who goes and
that
bricks a
would be
Nazi.
something to find in your granddad's attic, wouldn't it? A tube of fucking
A little Pervitin.
little Pervitin
I have
fucking ugh,
questions.
like finding original lewds.
On a separate note, hey, we want to give a shout out this fine
Go for it.
week to our good
What's
friends,
this then?
our good friends over at the Dead and Lovely podcast,
Oh yeah.
who would happily brick any fascist who came
Yep.
their way and will continue
Stand
to
up,
do
guys.
that in perpetuity, but not on the podcast Dead and Lovely, as they have come to an end this week after 7 years of bringing us much joy. I mean, not Mark, because Mark doesn't listen to it, but Steve has been on this podcast and
No,
that has brought you much joy.
Steve has been on this podcast on more than one occasion. I've
Mm-hmm.
been on Dead and Lovely on more than one
Yes, that's
occasion.
true. Yep, that's a good
And let me
point.
tell you something, right? Let me tell you something. Uh, Steve and Ben, when CoRri first floated the idea to me of starting a podcast, do you know what she did? Do you know what she told me to listen to? She told me to listen to an episode of Dead and Lovely, and I
I
did.
did. That's true. I
Um,
forgot.
yes, Dead and Lovely was my object lesson in what a podcast ought to sound like because I'd never fucking listened to one before.
It's true.
And no, I haven't listened to any of them because I don't like podcasts. But I listened to yours to get a fucking idea as to what ours should sound like. And thanks. Thank you very much.
Here, here. Many thanks to our dear
And your
pals.
community fucking love you, man. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a member and I contribute from time to time, but you've got like fucking people who love you.
Truth. Very
Fucking
much
mad,
so.
isn't it? People who actually love you and what you've contributed to their lives. And it's inspiring.
Here, here. Well-deserved love, and we love you guys. And Steve will be going straight back into the old podcasting world with our darling Anna, who has also helped to co-host this podcast in our time of
Yep.
need. And so make
Yep.
sure you are subscribing to Hell Rankers, in which they will be doing the Anna Martin every week or every month by watching and the entirety of a franchise and talking about it once a month. And then in between, they'll be doing their Trash Tuesday episodes that are more focused on single films. But everybody loves an Anna Martining. So make sure you're following Hell Rankers, and we'll look forward to that and to getting to hang out with them next month. Mark Lewis.
Oh my God, is it really next month?
Month. The month
Holy
after the one we are
shit.
currently in.
Oh, that's mad.
Isn't that bonkers?
Talk about a journey to get to that point.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Seriously. 4 years. And finally, we are bringing Mark here next month to hang out. And boy, it is so exciting. All the RSVPs we're getting. I've been sending out those packets and just so stoked to see you all and get together. Boff and Eileen said she's trying to come. And even though she and I have been friends for 20 plus years now,
Shut up.
we have
Really?
never met.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
We,
That's incredible.
We've been live journal
genuinely...
friends since probably 2000. It's like 24 years or so we have known each other. And we've never met. So this will, if she makes it, this will be the first time we've ever met.
This has the potential to be bigger than either of us could have ever imagined.
Right. I know.
Do you know what I mean? IRL first time connections happening.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
beautiful thing.
So nice.
Beautiful
so
thing.
nice.
So if you are thinking about coming, even if you're not sure, just hit us up on the Discord and I will send you a nice little info packet so that you can find out more about
Why do
what
I
we're
giggle
planning to
whenever
do.
you refer to it as a packet?
I don't know.
Because I do. I never fail. You
Every
without
time,
fail
it's
call
true.
it your info packet. And
Yeah.
I without fail will have a little titter. I find that hilarious. I don't know why. Info packet.
So it's just like when I said television a couple weeks ago and you laughed for like minutes.
What are you watching on the television? Mark, have you read my packet yet?
A question I asked like 47 times. Maybe that has something to do with
No,
it.
read it after. I don't need to read the packet because I'm coming to see
No,
you,
but
the
you
author
that's
of the packet.
no, but I need validation
No,
is the
that yes,
thing.
that's true.
That
That's
was
true.
so it got to got to the point where I kept texting Mark, "Have you looked at my packet yet? Have you looked at my packet yet?" And then I finally like had one of the that was like
Yeah,
very serious. Mark,
yeah.
I would really
I
like for you to
spent
look
a
at
long
this
time on
info
that packet.
packet. Yeah, I spent like a month on this. Will you please look at
And
this
I did.
packet?
That
And
was
you
what got
did.
me when
Hmm.
you conveyed to me how important my consumption of the packet was.
Yes.
I then went and drank deeply of the packet, and it was
Listen,
beautiful. I'm
for
glad I
yeah,
did.
as much as, I may make fun of you on this show for not listening to me or whatever the case may be, and it's a
You do?
running bit. What? Huh? This running gag that we have when it comes down to it. If I tell you something's important, you're always on top of it.
Yep.
So let the record show, listener, he's not actually a jerk. That's just a bit.
Uh,
No, hold on.
I
Hold
wasn't
on a
doing
minute.
that bit.
We've misinterpreted the bit. Um, Mark, do we want to talk about what we watched then?
Yeah, we can do. I mean, this won't take long. Let's have a little look here. What do we
Have a
have
little look
on the
see.
letterboxed? It's all
I
been
can
stuff
tell
that we've
you.
watched together, hasn't it?
Yeah, we have pretty much
Oh.
just I mean, I've
Who
watched a
told
little
you
more than
Psycho
that.
3 was any good?
I don't remember it. Well, it was like a whole blue sky conversation with like multiple people involved with it who were like, yeah, Psycho 2 is really great and everything, but Psycho 3 is maybe even better. What?
The fuck? That is
It's
put one of those
so
people before me
bad.
because it's
Right.
insane that anyone thinks that.
It is truly bafflingly bad and it I think I said to you while we were watching it like this was Anthony, what's his last name? I
Perkins.
keep Perkins. I keep wanting to say Hopkins. Anthony Perkins, like dealing with how repulsed he is by heterosexual sex through
Oh,
this movie.
completely. He is working things through
He's
there, isn't he?
working some shit
He's
through
dealing with some things.
in this movie. The premise of, I mean, it's very similar in premise to the second one, just more convoluted.
Good God. 4 stars, 4 stars, 3.5 stars,
I don't,
4 stars, 4 stars. Fuck it. What is wrong with people?
what's the overall letterboxed on this?
2.8, which
Okay.
is
Yeah, that seems
1.3 too many.
yeah, right. It's too many, but
Quick
that seems
maths.
a little more reasonable.
More reasonable,
Uh
yeah, but th this film has, sorry to say, it stands.
it does have stands. And I don't it's I mean, I think it appeals to a certain like sleaziness that a lot of people really like in a movie. I mean, tons of nudity and sex and sort of, yeah, just sleaze in this movie.
I
um,
don't like what it does with Norman as well, right?
yeah, I think Norman is, yeah, completely
Um,
misused in this.
Norman is the Norman of Psycho 2 is a deeply sympathetic character. He is a
Hmm.
victim. He is a victim of other people doing their best to manipulate him
Right.
to get what they want out of his story.
Yeah.
But Psycho 3, it turns Norman into something seedy, into something,
Hmm.
all right, yeah, he's a fucking weird lad.
Right.
But there's one particular shot where he's at his kitchen table and he's taxidermying a little bird, like he likes to
Hmm.
do, scooping
Yep.
out the bird, putting the sawdust in the bird. And there's no reason why they should characterize him in this way, but they make a point of showing him putting like peanut butter on a cracker with the same hand that he just used to scoop out a bird without washing it. And it's like, Norman's a fucking weirdo.
Right.
Leave Norman alone. Literally in the last movie, which only took place like a few months before this one,
Yeah. Yeah. It's immediate
he's just a
sequel.
fucking mentally ill guy.
Right. Yep.
I have big problems with Psycho 3. They did Norman dirty, and
Yeah.
I like Norman
Whereas,
Bates a lot.
yeah, me too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think Psycho 4 retcons that a little bit. So I then had you get Psycho 4 for me because I was like, I mean, I gotta finish it.
I
Like, we're
know.
not that far from the
I
end here.
know.
If there'd been more than one, no. But I was like, Psycho 4, let's do it. It's got Henry Thomas in it, which is, always a good time.
Elliot.
Elliot, yes,
Hey. Is he young
indeed.
Norman, is he?
young Norman. And this one basically, CCH Pounder plays a radio host who is talking to
Oh.
like a murderer. Like she has a show where she interviews murderers. And
I've
she
I've never said her name out loud, and I'm really glad based on what I've just heard.
what were you gonna say?
In
It's
my
literally
head,
3 letters.
yeah, but in my head, I've been calling her like Church Pounder. Well, Church Pounder.
No.
I'm so glad I've never had the
Oh
need to say her name out loud because that would have been embarrassing. You
no.
know, Church Pounder. Oh, fuck.
I love that though.
Well, well, well.
I wonder if people ever say that to her. If people just
Hmm.
overthink it and end up saying that to her face.
It isn't Church Pounder. What does the CCH stand for?
I've looked it up before and I don't remember it. I mean,
Okay.
that's too many letters for me to remember.
Yeah,
It's
fair
not
enough.
their everyday name. Uh,
I quite like the hubris involved in putting letters in your name.
right. Like there's that one guy whose name is, I think it's A Rodriguez or Ramirez or something like
Yeah,
that. I can't,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
every time I see it, I'm like,
C.
damn,
Thomas Howell,
okay.
Michael J. Fox. You know what I mean?
Well,
How
yeah, a lot
dare
of times
you?
that's just to get around
Equity.
SAG,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
because
yeah,
there's
yeah.
already someone with your same name, and so
Yeah.
you can't have the same name as somebody else. And like I
McG.
McG, McG is a
How
good one.
dare you?
McG.
How fucking you got something you want to say to this prick? But how dare you do that to your own name?
Uh,
Although, again, I'm not full of bees, but I'm rabbit holing. I
go for it.
will always respect any artist
Mhm.
who insists on stylizing the name of their work in capitals or their own name. I will always respect that. If you want
Okay.
to write the name of your work in caps, I will respect that.
Like their name or like a title?
Take Inland Empire,
Okay.
right? Lynch insists that that has to be written in caps.
Okay, I got you.
Who the fuck am I to argue with that? It's your work. It makes no effort at all to press caps lock.
So you respect someone's work more than their identity.
Man, we are fucking going for it this week. CoRri, on a level, maybe I do.
Interesting.
Because I value an act of artistic creation
Sure.
more than what I consider to be a frivolity in just chucking a word, a letter into your name. Fuck
What if
off.
that's not why they're doing it though?
Anyone can do that. Oh, you're telling me that CCH Pounder has a fucking manifesto behind those 3 letters, does
Do
she?
you need a manifesto for your identity? If it's your own thing.
I respect
I
the
have a
agency
capital
of
R in my
creation more
name.
than
I mean,
oh, yeah, you do, and it took me a while to respect that.
yeah, it did take you
I
a
do it
very
now.
long time to
What I tend to
put
do
that
now
in
is I
there.
avoid writing CoRri
You
because
do,
I don't
yeah.
feel comfortable putting the capital R in there. But if you wrote a story and insisted it had to be written in all caps, the title, I would do it
That'd
till
be,
my
yeah,
dying
no
day.
problem.
What's up with that?
Interesting. Much to
Hmm.
ponder. What were we talking? Oh, so CCH Pounder.
But
I love that you keep on like insisting though that you don't have brain bees. There
I
is
don't.
there is a
I
difference
don't.
between like last week. Did you listen back at because I told you to watch the cold open to last week
I
just to
watched a
see how
couple of
funny
minutes of
it
it,
was.
yes.
Because yeah, that's like a different kind of rabbit holing where it was just like this has nothing to do with anything and your
Uh,
brain was just in like another planet as opposed to I have a related thought to the thing that you're talking about.
I seem to remember
Uh
my second appearance on Dead and Lovely was in the grip of COVID, in the thrall of the novel coronavirus. And
uh
I must have just seen Mr. Cool Ice on Reddit that day. I just could not get that
just couldn't
fucking
get
guy out of my mind.
it happens.
It does.
But in this case, so we've got a radio host who interviews murderers, and then dear Norman calls in and ends up sort of telling her his backstory, in which we kind of find out about a sort of incestuous relationship with his mother, who is played by Olivia Hussey, the one from
Okay.
Romeo and Juliet,
Yeah, sure, sure,
British
sure.
lady.
Yep.
And so you get kind of the backstory of his weird relationship with his mom, and all the things that happen as a result of that, how his mother dies, and so forth, but also that he is about to commit another murder because he feels he has to. um and in this case, it is again a situation where it's not like he is like a sociopathic killer or whatever. It's
Yeah.
that like there is something in his head that has tweaked, and this has triggered him. And essentially, he is, even though he is calling in and, to like, as if it's inevitable, by purging the story, you also kind of get the feeling that like he also wants to be caught, and is fighting against that nature, much like he does in the other
Yeah.
psychos, is trying to push back against, the inevitability of him
Yeah.
committing
See,
murder.
that's at the heart of
Right.
why he's such a beautiful, tragic
Right. He doesn't want
antagonist.
this, know?
He doesn't revel in it.
Yeah.
He's not your typical slasher. He knows that he's ill,
Yeah. And that's
you
why he
know?
disassociates and becomes his mother
Yeah,
when
yeah, yeah,
he
yeah, yeah,
kills,
yeah,
because
yeah,
he
yeah.
doesn't want to be doing this.
Oh God, Psycho 2 is so good.
Hmm. And I think
It
Psycho
is
3 is quite good. I mean, it doesn't live up to 1 or 2.
mm,
It's so hard to live up to 1 or 2, but I think it is much more watchable as a movie and hangs together with what you know of Norman and all of that kind of stuff much better than
mm.
the abomination that is 3.
Does it did you watch Bates Motel?
I watched like a season of it, and then, as usual, I forgot I was watching it.
Because I loved Bates Motel.
I liked what I saw of it. I was
Great
very
show.
into it at the
Just a
time. Yeah.
great show. Um, so you're the wrong person to ask, really, if the two have
Yeah,
anything in
I
common.
don't have a good enough memory of it. I
Okay.
should rewatch it though. Like now I've watched 4 Psychos. I might as well
You may as well, if
finish Bates Motel.
if you're going to Martin it, do it properly. I've
Yeah.
realized that I don't have the constitution to really call myself a true Anna Martin consumer of franchises.
No,
Didn't finish Grease,
you're a
didn't
share
finish
zone guy.
Psycho. I am, yeah.
You'll
Yeah,
just
and that's
walk out.
fine. And
Hmm.
that's fine. Hit the
Yep,
bricks.
exactly. I'm in between those things. I won't like keep going if I'm having a miserable time with it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like I would never watch all of the Hellraisers.
Mm.
But if I'm like, I can I can manage. I think this I'm having enough of a good time, or I think there's, a light on the
See it
horizon, then
through.
I'll keep going. Yeah, exactly. Especially if
So
it's I've already watched enough of them. Like, might as well watch one more. It's 90 minutes, not
I
wasting a whole lot of my life. So I don't know. I would be
uh
interested if you ever get around to Psycho 4 and seeing what you think of it, but I also
it's one
don't
of
know
those
that
that
you'd like it.
there is like a nerve or a part of bone in me that would quite like to watch it. But
Mhm.
until there's literally nothing else to
Right.
watch.
It has to be like
Yeah.
this is the thing right now. I've
Yeah.
run out of others. I get that.
Yes. Because after all, Corrigan, we are what we are.
We are what we are. Hmm.
You'd seen this one before, yes?
I had like when it came out, so almost a decade ago, I guess now, right? Or a
Yeah.
little over. It was like 2013.
Just over, yeah, 2013.
Yeah. And I remembered liking it a ton. I didn't remember like the details of it. In fact, thus I was like surprised when Wyatt Russell showed up in it. So I was like, this was
Yeah.
long enough ago. I don't think I knew that was Kurt Russell's kid when I
Yeah.
watched this. So yeah, we are what we are.
How could you not know he's Kurt Russell's kid? He could walk past
Listen,
you in the
a
street and you're like,
lot of
fucking hell, that
people,
kid looks
yeah,
like Kurt Russell.
a lot of people look like other people.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Um, I've often kind of wondered, are there only a is there a physically finite number of permutations of a human face?
Right.
Because you see people some and you're like, they don't like look the same, but they have the same kind of face, you
Yeah,
know?
right. Exactly.
Hmm. Anyway, sorry, we are what we are. Just such a Joag adjacent film.
Hmm. Definitely.
Oh, um, It's a very earnest, very, very meticulous, very respectable horror movie, this.
Mm,
And that shoots right for a very sweet spot of mine.
mm,
See, I have no time or truck or fucking I have no interest in people who look down their noses at horror
right.
and enjoy it for, well, yeah, it's a bit of fun, isn't it? Jump
Mhm.
scares, horror films.
Mhm.
Fuck off, right? Fuck
Yep.
you. There is nothing you can't achieve in the conventions of a horror film. Nothing at all.
Right.
And We Are What We Are knows this.
Hmm.
So it turns the fuck up. And performances are fucking terrific.
Yeah.
Fucking terrific. It's a drama. It's a kitchen sink drama. It's a family drama
Hmm.
of generational trauma and fucking secrets and lies and falling prion disease.
Hell yeah.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Yep. Um, when a character's misdiagnosed with Parkinson's, but then the pieces start to fit together.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? The fucking
Yeah.
tremors and the unusual disappearances and the fucking oh, lovely stuff. Really cool.
Yeah. With a good amount of gore in it as well
Yes,
for
indeed.
those of you who love a bit of blood.
Yep. And Ruth from Ozark for those of you who
And
like
Ruth
her.
from Ozark. What is her name? I can't think of what it is. She's in an
Ruth.
I mean, she is Australian and she is in an Australian movie that came out recently that I keep meaning to watch and then kind of forgot about after a
Ruth
while.
from Ozark is Julia Garner.
Julia Garner. That's it. Yeah, she's in something that I keep meaning to watch but haven't gotten around to.
Mm.
And yeah, I have, it's not her fault really, but I noped out of Ozark because I found that character too annoying, which I think is her doing it well.
Was she the reason why you abandoned
Yeah, I
Ozark?
couldn't. I was like, if
Good God.
if I can't punch her through the screen, I can't watch this show. And
Oh,
so
that's
I straight
unusual
noped
to me
out.
because quite the opposite. She was one of the most compelling things about the
I
show,
think a
apart
lot
from,
of people really liked her on it. Yeah,
yeah, she was
that's
terrific.
yeah. I think the fact that I hated her so much, like from the ones that I watched, I don't know if she gets more lovable or anything like that, but from the ones that I watch, I was like, I hate her so goddamn much. I think that speaks to her being good in it. It's just
Yeah,
like she's the
certainly.
most annoying person I have ever seen in my life.
And
I
I
can't
don't know
watch
about
this.
lovable, but she becomes a character of real purpose. She
Hmm.
becomes a big fucking catalyst for the entire show, really.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Maybe one day I will go back to it. But yeah, it was just I couldn't take her in that. And again, not her fault. I think that's her playing the role
Mm.
well. I just
Yeah,
couldn't
I mean, she
hang.
plays a 14-year-old in We Are What We Are. I'd love to know how old she was actually at the time because
She's
without
got to be
wanting to sound
around that
like
age. Yeah.
Kermode, she delivers a performance belying her early years. I thought she was terrific.
Mhm. Yeah, she's good. She's playing Madonna, isn't she?
Fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Really?
If you see the pictures, she like legit looks exactly
I
like
don't
Madonna.
hate it at
Yeah.
all.
It's pretty wild. Um,
I think she's also
when
playing the
he
Silver Surfer.
Oh, is she?
Yes.
Interesting. She's got a lot going on.
I can,
Um,
yeah, 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 yeah.
but yeah, so we are. I loved it when I watched it initially and still holds up, still super dug it.
Yeah. I don't
Um,
know. That was my pick, and I don't know where I got it from.
yeah, another one of those out of nowhere picks for you because we were gonna watch Cemetery Man, which was the last Dead and Lovely one, and you were like, "It's my pick. We're doing this." So, yeah, I don't know why a 11-year-old movie became
Tell
the
me.
thing that ended up on your radar, but was it Reddit?
Nice.
I feel like usually it's Reddit.
I think usually it is. I think I'll tend to Google Reddit like obscure horrors and I'll
Great
listen to
choice
my
wherever it came from.
yeah, enjoyed it a
Um,
great deal.
I watched The King of Comedy this week,
Oh, hello.
which came up. So I had added it on Paramount Plus because it came up in the suggested movies after watching Running Man, which it's like, I guess I
Uh,
kind of see where that's coming from, but
it's a tangent,
not
but
the
I
same
can I
vibe.
can I
Yeah.
can see it. I can
Yeah.
see where the thread it pulled from.
Yeah, the satire and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. And much like Ruth on Ozark, The King of Comedy, I will acknowledge is a great movie that was just very much not for me
Okay.
because I can't stand like annoying characters
Yeah.
who can't read the room, and
Yeah.
De Niro is through the
Yeah.
roof in this
Do you
movie.
know, I remember talking to you about Dog Day Afternoon, right?
Mhm. I loved Dog Day
And
Afternoon. Yeah.
how can you not?
Fantastic.
I think it was Dog Day Afternoon that really shows you the range that young Pacino had.
Hmm.
He could play any fucking thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh, and King of Comedy does the same thing for me with De Niro.
Yeah,
That is
100%.
not the same De Niro that you
Right.
think you know.
No, 100%. I was thinking the exact same thing while watching it. Like that was
Mm,
I'm like I'm not enjoying my time here, but both him and Sandra Bernhard,
yeah.
freaking A. So incredible in that movie. Which the one thing I will say about it is so I hadn't seen it. And watching it, and I don't mean this to offend you, dear Mark, but it makes
Uh-oh.
Joker seem
That's what
very
you said.
derivative.
That's what you usually say before you're about to offend me.
No, sometimes I come at you hard. In
No,
this
you do.
case, I am not trying to, poke at you with
No.
this one, but watching it, you know, 2, 3 years, whatever, after seeing Joker or whatever,
Yeah.
um, I think Joker kind of crosses from homage to being like
Oh, yes, yes, yes,
derivative of this
yes.
movie.
Yeah.
Like through the whole thing, it is very
Joker
much
gets by a lot on not many people having seen King of Comedy.
100%. That's
You
that
know?
was exactly what I was thinking. It's like that I hadn't seen this
Yes.
makes it so I think I liked
It is
Joker more
incredible.
because I didn't
And
realize how much it was
it's been
ripping
a
off
long
something
old time
else.
since I've seen King of Comedy, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, what I remember of it, it's shameless.
Completely shameless. It's like one of those things where you're like almost like, why didn't he just make a remake of King of Comedy? Because these are
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
same movie.
Yep.
Down to
Down
his
to the
delusions
down to
and
the way
the
that New York is shot,
yeah, 100%.
it's just little details are the same.
Yeah. And
Uh
he has all the same kinds of like delusions that are shown to
yeah.
you as if they're really
Yep.
happening
Yes,
with
yes,
the
yes,
like
yes, yes.
black woman that he's imagining a relationship with
Yep.
and all of these kinds of things. I'm like, this is the
Yeah.
same movie.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
I mean, I Longlegs did it. Don't tell me that
I don't think that that
Zodiac and
is.
oh, come on,
I
Longlegs
think that's taking, like you said, you're
helps
about to name a
itself.
bunch of different movies that it cribs from because we're talking about influences, right? It's not the
Mm.
storyline of any of those movies like Seven or um, Silence of the Lambs or like any of the things that it's taking its very clear inspirations from. It
Mm.
didn't steal their story. This is the same story as uh as Joker. King of Comedy and Joker have the same story.
They do, they do, yeah, they do.
Down to him like holding hostage the same guy who is the hostage taker
Yeah,
in the movie, which is like, whatever, it's fine. Like it was just interesting to me to watch this and be like, I had heard this was an homage to King of Comedy. I didn't realize
yeah,
how much it was like it's a
yeah.
remake of King of Comedy using the Joker.
And you can't offend me by going after Joker, right? Because I know I get it.
You know what you're Yeah, you know what
Yes.
you're watching
But
there.
I can't deny my heart's true love. I love
Hey, it
Joker
is what
so
it
much.
is. Yeah,
Mm.
that's fine. I'm not faulting you for that. Like I said, when I went back and looked at like what my rating on it was, like I think the thing is it kind of just like disappeared from my brain as soon as I watched it. And so I thought I didn't like it. It's like, no, I
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
it was fine when I saw it.
Yep.
Like it's not one of those movies that I was like, oh, fuck this. I gave it like a 3.5. So
Fuck Joker. Worst thing about Joker, right? The first time I saw it, in at the movies, uh, a fella and his girlfriend turned up, drunk off their ass,
oh no.
and they did not know they did not know the movie that they'd come to see. They were expecting like Jack Nicholson Joker.
Okay.
They were expecting like wacky Joker,
Yeah, right.
and just forced kind of bursting out in laughter at the most
Oh
ridiculous
no.
fucking moment. Really irritating. Um,
Yeah, that's the worst.
yeah.
The other thing that I watched this movie was for our Ko-Fi, which
Oh,
is
you bad friend.
it's a terrible,
Bad
terrible
friend.
friend. I made Kristen watch it
Mm.
for this month's Joag Fan Cave, as in the movie, not the mini series. And it went, from what I can tell, as you would expect. She said she had trouble sleeping afterwards. I've glanced over her notes from it. Um, it, yeah, it's a
She
lot. When I
doesn't
watched,
have to do this, does she? You're not
she does
paying
not
her.
know. She is just out of the goodness of her heart, doing this podcast with me. And to be fair, we've watched some things like she loved I Know What You Did Last Summer when we watched it last
Yeah.
month. She's gotten some good stuff out of these as well. But the thing was, she had kind of expressed early on, like, she kept saying it, and I don't know that she knew she was doing it. She was like, are we going to watch like it or things like, and it came up multiple times, and I was like, I think we need to rip the band-aid off. I think we need to we need to do it. So I rewatched it last night and I forgot, like, it
Yeah,
goes
it goes
in
hard.
so fast.
Oh,
Like, you don't
I
get,
loved it, chapter one. I
yeah,
really enjoyed
it's
it.
it's so good. And yeah, the scary stuff starts rolling immediately.
It does.
And it does not
And
give you much reprieve.
and I seem to remember it being one of the first of the books that I'd read. I remember clearly Misery was my first ever Stephen King book.
Nice.
And I think it was hot on the heels of that.
Yeah, I want
And
to say it
I
was one of
read
my first.
yes, and I've read it time and time again since.
Nice.
And the opening with Georgie losing his arm in the sewer, and the way that Georgie is described as a little brother,
Hmm.
you know, and how he's gone, he's never going to see his little brother again, and it just gets me, man. It
Yeah.
really fucking hits hard,
Hmm.
and the movie did a spectacular job of translating that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Honestly, I think the miniseries does a pretty good job with that as well, but definitely the
Wow.
movie movie crushes that. I think it really, I mean, I'm one of the few also that really enjoyed the second one. I think they both just kind of get to the emotions at the heart of all of this stuff, but the
Um,
first one specifically.
I ask myself, did it? Did you need to make two movies there, mate? I don't know if you did.
Hey, they took 6 episodes to make it before. It is hard to get all of that
Yeah, it is.
into
You're right.
one story.
But
I mean, I was
I
thinking
stand
about,
by.
like,
I could make a fucking banging 90-minute Lord of the Rings. I am telling you, no movie needs to be 9 hours
well, yeah,
or
no, I
12 hours.
agree with that. I was thinking about that though when I finished it last night. That I was like, it feels like maybe it's a little too long, but at the same time, I don't know what I'd cut from it. Like, it
Yeah,
feels like everything serves
yeah.
what it's there to do. So, I could only nitpick cuts from it, being like, maybe if you cut a little bit of the time out of this scene or things like that. But I think it's a hard story to tell in a brief way.
But then again, I also ask myself, does the book need to be 1,200 pages? Does it fuck?
Sure, right.
You know,
But
it's
you keep reading it.
yeah. It's a bloated story.
It is, yep.
Let's go with that.
Yeah, I will grant you that, but it's a good one. I think, it showcases the best things about Stephen King, that it's not just the scariness and creepiness that makes your skin crawl, but the real sort
Yes,
of getting to the heart of a lot of deep issues and the emotions and feelings of people dealing with really hard stuff in
and
life.
it's got a fucking awful ending. So
So what are you supposed to
everything
do about that, right?
everything about Big Steve is there in Technicolor in that fucking book.
Right. Yep. Totally.
Oh, it's a spider. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Why not?
It's a spider.
um. Yeah. But then the other thing that I watched was sort of on your recommendation, in a sense.
Hmm?
So years ago, when it first came out, I started watching Cobra Kai, um, because a friend of mine was watching it, but that friend was like an asshole conservative QAnon type thing. And
Yeah.
so I was sort of watching it
I can
through
see how
his
Cobra Kai might
lens.
attract that mindset.
Right. You can see it's very much like Archie Bunker, right? Like where
Mm.
most of us knew this was mocking like a bigoted conservative person, but conservatives thought he was on their side. They
Yeah, yeah,
thought he
yeah.
was speaking their mind. And so when I was watching Cobra Kai the first time in like 2018 or whatever, I was seeing it through the lens of my conservative friend who thought Johnny was a hero,
Yeah.
who was like, this guy is just saying what we're all thinking. And,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
he's,
yeah.
yeah, these kids are all pussies and they need to grow up and blah, blah,
Yep.
blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, I noped out of it because I was reading it through that lens and I was like, fuck this show. And then years later, lots of people have said how much they love this who are very much not conservatives. And I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
maybe I should give it another try. And you've been consistently watching this with your family, which is kind of crazy. I was like, this is not family entertainment. Uh,
Uh, it,
but
I think it
uh,
mellows out. I think it goes
oh,
down
okay.
to 12 after a season or two.
Okay, yeah, because that first season, I was like, Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, you watched this with your kids?
Yeah, well,
Oh
Pete
my
watched it on his
God.
own and
Okay,
strong-armed me into watching it. He's like, Dad,
fair enough.
yeah, and it took him ages to get me to watch it.
Uh-huh.
I don't care, Pete, don't care. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
gave it a chance and I just dove headlong into it. And he's very fond of using that as, well, I can get you to watch anything now because you like Cobra Kai, didn't you?
Yep, yep,
How
yep.
far through are you?
I'm still on the first season, near the end of the first season.
Okay,
So,
okay,
don't spoil anything for me,
right.
but
The
really loving it.
Cobra Kai takes place in an alternate fucking reality. Right? It ain't planet Earth that show
Is it
exists
not?
in. Nah, not at all. And as the seasons continue, you'll kind of get what I
Uh,
mean about that. It exists in a parallel realm where karate is important
sure, right.
and people like loads of people are into it.
I
Um,
guess the first season isn't that way. Like, because the
yeah,
first season, it's like very clear that karate is dorky and
yep.
like nobody
Oh
wants anything
man,
to do
no.
with it.
Fucking hell. There's a bit of Power Rangers in there, there's a bit of
Nice,
Beverly
nice.
Hills in there.
Mhm.
It's very, very reverent and respectful of the source material. It loves Karate
Mhm.
Kid,
Yeah,
which I don't
totally.
particularly. I don't really give a
Me neither.
shit.
Not a huge fan.
Um,
It's fine.
Johnny, who you talk about, the just it becomes such a hilarious running joke that he doesn't understand modern things,
Mhm.
and but all of those things, all right, they sound all right, but it all kind of comes together. The heart of the show is so fucking authentic.
Mhm.
This show really feels it. Uh man, I can't wait for you to
Yeah,
progress
yeah.
through Cobra Kai. It's the
This is
best.
I started it with Keo, so I have to wait for him to get back from New York to watch some more of it. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, I'm having a blast with it. Also, Johnny sounds and acts pretty much exactly like Dennis Duffy from 30 Rock, and that makes him even funnier to me.
Uh
Liz Lemon's ex-boyfriend, the Irish American ex-boyfriend who calls her dummy.
Never seen it.
You've never seen 30 Rock?
Correct. I have never seen 30 Rock. I couldn't even
Oh.
describe for you an idea of what it's about. I have no clue.
That's incredible. I think I was confused because you did watch Arrested Development and I kind of
Yes.
line those things up in my head with the same sort of like absurdist humor of that particular moment.
Yeah.
Riffing on rich people and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, there's a character named Dennis Duffy on 30 Rock who is basically Johnny. Uh,
Okay.
and so every time he talks, I can't hear him as anything else. But I was gonna like name like other things that you would know him from, and I was like, they're all so American. Like he was on Law and Order SVU. He's in
Nope.
these running commercials where he plays a character named Mayhem for Nationwide Insurance, I believe. Oh
Wow.
man, they're very funny. You would enjoy them. They're just basically the kind he comes in and represents chaos in really stupid ways. Um, but yeah, I can't think of anything that I'm like, what would a British
Nothing
person
of
have
any
seen
relevance at all.
other than 30 Rock?
Hmm.
We'll work on that. But yeah, that's all the things that I have watched this week. We'll see if
Anything
more
coming
comes
up you're
out.
enthused about?
That's a well, I really want to see Trap. But it's not playing at the indie
Yeah.
theater. I have to go all the way to the AMC
Is
and
it out
pay
then?
$15 to see it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's out. People are talking about it and to mixed reviews, but I've heard enough good, solid, it's fun reviews that I'm like, all right, I know it's gonna have a stupid twist, but I'm here
Listen,
for the Josh Hartnett serial
yeah,
killer stuff.
same. And M. Night, I know you're a listener, so I'm addressing you directly. I
Mm.
am sorry, but I am going to steal your film.
Oh,
You ain't getting a fucking penny, right?
that's
But I'm
rough.
going to enjoy it,
Well,
probably for
there you
what it
go.
is.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I
That's my
hope it's
plan.
better
Enjoy it for
than.
what it is. Like, listen, even when we watched Old, which is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my
Sorry, I
life,
think.
we had so much
Can you give it
fun.
its full title,
I'm
please?
sorry, The Beach That Makes You Old.
Thank you very much.
It was so much fun, despite being so incomprehensible. So I'm going into Trap with the mindset of like
You know,
it for what it is.
I don't know why I do it, but he's the only filmmaker who I have to make a sentence out of the titles of his movies. I do it all the time. The Man Who Was
Really?
Unbreakable. I call it
Oh,
The Man Who Was Unbreakable.
I did not
Oh,
realize that.
yeah, I do.
Interesting. Hmm.
Well, well, well. Sorry,
I
M.
feel
Night.
like
I know
there's
you're a big
something about
fan.
his movies that lend themselves to like
Yeah.
over description.
Yes.
It makes
Yes.
sense. But
The
yeah, so I really
Man
want to try
Who
to
Was
see
Unbreakable.
I really want to see Trap this week if I can make it out to that one. So,
Yes, and when I see it, I will know what its full title is.
yes, exactly. The concert at which they set the trap.
Possibly, yeah, yeah, yeah. Workshop it. There'll be something there.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Do you have anything you would like to ask our
The
audience this
Boy with the
week?
Sixth Sense. Honestly, can I just be straight
Mm,
spitting facts? No, I don't.
all
Uh,
right.
if we're going on the same format as our cold opens, it's your turn anyway.
Oh, is that how we're doing
Not
it?
to
I think
worry.
you just usually have a lot of weird questions on your mind. Uh, that's why I look to you for questions.
I do.
So your brain's a weird place. Sometimes I just like to check in,
It
see what
is.
you're thinking
This
about.
week, I think I've excised all that as we've gone
Yeah.
along.
I think so. Yeah, very much so. So,
Mm.
the only thing, it's not like a real question, but my thought process here is, can you know philosophically, I guess, whether there is an afterlife? And give us your thoughts on this whole near death experience thing. And oh, if you've ever had a near death experience, do you remember what you thought about as it was happening?
We have millions of listeners across the world.
Obviously.
One of you must have had an NDE or an
Yeah.
SYE.
And SYE, yeah.
And not only would we love to hear about it, frankly, if you're not like a real weirdo, I'd quite like to talk to you about it.
Oh, hey, there we go. So you know where to find us. You know where to hit us
Mm,
up to talk about
you
such
do.
things.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, you know what you
In
got
the
to do?
fucking meantime, yeah, man, stay spooky.
Spooky. The way you wound up to that with your face. It's just a lot.
Threw my fucking heart and soul into it.